Might Guy is the fastest Naruto character. He's faster than Naruto, he's faster than Sasuke, Kaguya, than Momo-Sashimi, than Ishiti, and this is pretty evident by what Kishimoto shows us on page. Now, you may say, but Naruto managed to dodge a light speed attack from Madara and his Light Fang. Sure, the attack is listed as being a light speed attack on the data books. I don't know how trustworthy they are because they have some pretty bold claims. Still, that attack looks like a laser beam, which is light, which would be moving at the speed of light. So, is Naruto light speed because he dodged that attack? No. You can dodge things that are much faster than you. A normal person can dodge a bullet. You just have to get out of the trajectory before the bullet is shot. That is exactly what Naruto does dodging the Light Fang. Now, obviously, this will require a lot of speed. I'm not saying Naruto is slow by any means, but Might Guy is faster than he is. So for me to explain why Guy is the fastest character, I have to clarify some misconceptions, and there are a lot of them, behind Might Guy's feet when he uses the Night Guy and hits Yubidara. In that moment, Might Guy manages to bend space-time through sheer speed, and yes, Might Guy bends space-time, not just space. I'm gonna get into that later. This is something that we had never seen before and that we never see ever again. Guy's the only character capable of doing that in his final attack, the most potent taijutsu technique in the verse. And I've heard many counter-arguments as to why Guy is not the fastest character just because he bends space-time. One of those is that Might Guy simply could not control his speed properly, and therefore he was bending space because he just didn't know how to tame his power. And the other characters are so much more powerful than him because they can actually move faster than Guy and not make space bend, and this simply makes no sense. There is no jutsu that allows characters to not bend space-time. It's something completely beyond their control if they don't have a magical mean to control it, and they never show anything like it. So if characters are moving fast enough to bend space-time, they should bend space-time. There's no controlling it because it's a physical thing. If we assume that physics works the same way in the Naruto universe as it works in our universe, then there would be no controlling this bending of space-time, unless you use magical means, as I mentioned before. And because no other characters has been shown bending space-time because they're so fast, then the clear conclusion is that the person who's able to do it is the fastest among them all. Some people will just dismiss this bending of space, saying that, well, it's just Kishimoto doing something cool for Might Guy. It's not really important that he bends space-time. He's definitely not faster than the more powerful characters. But if that's the case, you're just disregarding something that's blatantly shown in the manga and in the anime. It's essentially gaslighting yourself, saying that this is not important, it doesn't even exist, it's just something meant to look cool. And you could use the same argument to justify anything to fit your agenda. And then the most popular argument as to why Guy is not doing anything too impressive here is that bending space is a feat of mass and not a feat of speed. And yes, I understand why people make this argument. Most people don't understand general relativity. It's an abstract concept that's not apparently present in our daily lives, even though it affects everything we do. It's also not taught in high school, commonly at least, so people have less access to this type of knowledge if they don't actively search for it. So they'll just assume, no, yeah, bending space is a feat of mass. It's not a feat of speed, so therefore, Guy's not faster than the other characters. Now, without getting into the science of things, think about this for a second. Why would Kishimoto show Guy bending space-time if this was a feat of his mass? Are the 8 gates supposed to make Guy way more? Is that what the gates do? No, the gates amp Guy's strength and speed, especially speed in this case. Obviously, Kishimoto is trying to convey through the bending of space that Might Guy is extremely fast because this is the focus of the scene there, at least when it comes to the general fight. And I am referring to the bending of space because this is what people generally say when they talk about this scene, but as I said before, Guy is bending space and time during this scene. So now is the part of the video where we're gonna try to apply real-life science into shonen manga / anime, which is not something I like doing, but it's an interesting exercise. And for that, I'll have to explain relativity a little bit. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, space and time are inseparable, intricately connected. When you're talking about space, you're also talking about time. And according to this theory, space and time are not a constant. They can be bent. Hence the name relativity, because space and time are relative. The constant of the universe is actually the speed of light. So when Might Guy is bending space, if the rules of physics apply the same way in the Naruto universe as they apply to ours, he is also bending time. You cannot bend space without bending time. This is just how the universe works. Objects with great mass will bend space-time. The most famous depiction of that is going to be a black hole. If you you were to fall into a black hole and somebody was observing you falling from the outside, for the person observing, you would essentially freeze in time before you were ever swallowed by the black hole. Because space-time is being bent so violently due to the insane mass of a black hole, but the same thing applies to other massive objects, not as massive as a black hole, but the Earth, for instance, bends space-time as well. And this bend of space-time is what people actually refer to as gravity, but according to relativity, gravity doesn't really exist. It's a curvature in space-time created by mass, meaning that objects that are moving at a constant rate without acceleration are actually going to be pulled because of this bend in space-time towards that massive object, as though you're falling down. And when you are standing on a planet, you're actually accelerating. Even if you're not moving at all, the fact that you're standing up means that you are accelerating. So according to general relativity, in order for you to remain still on a massive object, aka a planet, you have to accelerate. It's pretty weird, but that's how it works. So then you may be saying, aha! So it is mass that creates the bending of space-time. So I was right. Well, technically, yes. But my guy's feat of bending space-time is not due to his mass, but due to his speed. Let me explain. According to general relativity, in order for you to accelerate anything with mass, energy is going to be required. And the faster any object with mass goes and accelerates, the more massive the object becomes relative to its speed. Now, when you go for a jog or a sprint and you accelerate, you are spending energy, but you don't really feel yourself getting heavier because the speed that you're accelerating at is negligible. But when you start to scale that towards the speed of light, then your mass starts to increase in an alarming rate. And obviously, the more massive you are, the more energy is going to be required for it to keep on accelerating. And this continues until you reach the speed of light. The problem is that when a theoretical physical object reaches the speed of light, it will be so fast that its mass will be infinite, and therefore it will require an infinite amount of energy to keep on accelerating, meaning that it's impossible to accelerate beyond the speed of light because you just cannot gather infinite energy. The only exception for that is the inflation time right after the Big Bang, but that particular time in the universe's history is not very well understood. But this all means that the faster Might Guy goes, the more massive he gets. So technically, yes, Might Guy is bending space-time in that scene because he's so massive, but he becomes so massive because he goes so fast, meaning that the 8th gate granted him so much speed that he was actually moving somewhere close to the speed of light, which made him so massive he could bend space-time around him, just like a massive object, like a planet, or a star, or a black hole. Now, the notion that people say, well, he's not bending time as well, he's just bending space, is usually said because Madara thinks, oh, he's even bending space when he sees Guy rushing towards him as he sees his staff just getting bent. Now, Madara is not a physicist. It's fair to say that he's probably not going to understand how general relativity is going to work. We don't even know if this is a concept that was found out in the Naruto universe. We don't know much about the scientific breakthroughs in the shinobi world, which is not really the point of the story, so yeah, whatever. But it's fair to assume that Madara noticed his staff getting bent, and then he thought, oh, he's bending space, because that's what Madara is seeing, space being bent. However, you wouldn't even feel the bent of time that comes along with the bent of space. That's why it's possible to time travel to the future by accelerating near the speed of light. Because as you do so, as you get so much faster and you get so much more massive, you're going to bend space-time around you due to your speed. And for you, traveling near the speed of light, time will pass normally. But for observers, time will pass much, much faster. So when you return to Earth after doing a round trip around the solar system or whatever near the speed of light, people that were younger than you when you left the Earth are probably going to be older. But you yourself won't really feel time passing differently because everything is relative to the observer, hence the name relativity. So Madara wouldn't even notice time passing by differently because of the bend. He would just see the staff and say, oh, space is being bent. That's crazy speed. Now, to be fair, the bent of space is not portrayed scientifically accurate because what would happen if Guy was bending space-time was that Madara would quote-unquote fall towards Might Guy because that's what the bent of space does. It creates the illusion of gravity. What we see in the manga is that Madara's staff quite literally bends, which is not scientifically accurate. Now, when you are falling into a black hole, there's a process called spaghettification, which means that you're literally torn apart and your body's drained into the black hole. But that happens because the bent of space, aka gravity, is so much more powerful in an area of your body that's closer to the black hole than the other part, that your body is just going to be turned into spaghetti. So if you're falling feet first towards the black hole, your feet are going to be ripped apart, and then the rest of your body will follow suit. But it's not because space-time itself is bending that way. Now, Kishimoto's depiction of space-time being bent is the best way he could show that to the audience. If Madara started to fall towards Guy, that would just be kind of weird. And showing the staff turning essentially into a crescent moon was a good way to say, yeah, space is being bent. Not exactly the most scientific portrayal, but it's still being bent. And yes, you may discredit my guy bending space-time because it's not scientifically accurate to general relativity and how it would work, but this is literally the only mention in the entire series of a character that is moving at relativistic speeds. It's funny how scalars tend to use equations and formulas and whatnot that are going to benefit the agenda. You know, the Otsutsukis, they have to be the most powerful guys in the verse, so they're gonna pull Newton's third law to say, yeah man, they can withstand the blow of an entire supernova, whatever. But then when there's a clear depiction of a character moving at relativistic speeds, they just turn a blind eye and say, no, it doesn't really matter. I am going to trust the very trustworthy words of the data books, because those have never lied. And the thing is, Newtonian physics can still be applicable in several instances in real life, but it's been superseded by general relativity. Relativity has not failed any test that has been put through ever since it's being conceptualized, while Newtonian physics can only go so far, so relativity is a superior theory. So just ignoring the fact that Guy is bending space-time because we need to make sure the Otsutsukis and the Boruto characters are the strongest ones and the fastest ones in the verse is a little bit hypocritical, isn't it? Now the question is, how fast is my guy actually moving when he uses Night Guy and bends space-time? Well, we don't know for certain because calculating things by looking at a panel in the manga is one of the most stupid things you could do. Let's count how many pixels this particular crater has and calculate how many joules the explosion yields. It's not the most productive thing in the world. Do you really think Kishimoto, who had to draw and write 20 manga pages every week, was concerned with how many joules a particular explosion yielded? Oh no, this explosion was supposed to be 14 billion joules and not 12 billion joules. We'll have to redraw the entire thing. Obviously not. Now, the general feel and sizes of things that happen, such as explosions and whatnot, are important to determine the power of a particular character. For example, we can see that the Ten Tails Bijudama is much stronger than any other Bijudama just because the explosion is so much bigger, but to calculate how much more powerful using real-life formulas is just kind of stupid. Because I guarantee you that Kishimoto was not going that deep into the sizes of explosions and everything he did. He usually put what looked good much before calculating power levels, which even leads to some inconsistencies. Just take a look at the Nine Tails in the fight between Madara and Hashirama. In this panel in the beginning of the fight, the Nine Tails look so much bigger than in this other panel towards the end, just comparing to Madara on the top of her head. So if Kishimoto is not paying that much attention to the sizes of actual characters in the series and should have a standard size, then he's definitely not paying attention to the size of an explosion or crater all that much. And he chose to draw Madara and the Nine Tails in different sizes just because he thought the differences would look better in those particular panels. Of course, the power scalers will say, no, actually, Madara used the expansion jutsu of the Akimichi clan in the middle of the scene and just didn't see it because it was off page, but actually he is much bigger now in the Nine Tails' head, or they're gonna say that the Nine Tails shrunk. It's always something like this, but it's just Kishimoto being a little inconsistent, and that's not that big of a deal. So trying to calculate Guy's exact speed is essentially useless. Not even Kishimoto would give you an exact number. He would just say, no, yeah, he's moving really fast, he's bending space-time in relativistic speeds. He could be moving at 30% of light speed, he could be moving at 60, 80, 90, 99.9999% light speed. We don't know. The only thing we know, if physics still apply in the Naruto universe, is that nobody can move at light speed proper. The important thing that scene is conveying is that my guy is in fact the fastest character ever in the Naruto universe. Now, he may not be as fast as other characters during the other stages of the 8th gate, when he was using the Evening Elephant, for example, who's not bending space-time there, but when he uses the Night Guy, it's undeniable undeniable that he is faster than anybody else, because no one bends space-time because of their speed. Now, you may be saying, well, people like Tobirama and Minato are definitely faster than Guy is because they can teleport instantaneously. And yes, that's true. Instant teleportation requires no time. However, if you're also taking real physics into account, the fact that they travel literally instant in between flying Raijin marks, requiring no time whatsoever for them to go from one place to the other, means that they're technically traveling faster than the speed of light. Now, they're not actually moving towards the other marks, so they're not going to get that increase in mass. It's going to generate the bend in space-time, but this creates another problem. Instant travel creates, by default, time travelers. So every time Minato and Tobirama use the Flying Thunder God, if they're actually instant, they're traveling through time as well. They're not bending time, no, they're traveling in time, which is a different thing entirely. So in my headcanon, the Flying Thunder God jutsu has a little bit of a delay for Minato and Tobirama to get where they are, but they move so close to the speed of light in their teleportation that it's barely noticeable. It's just so that they don't break physics as we know it. In the end of the day, applying real-world physics to fantasy is a futile exercise. Kishimoto doesn't really care all that much if he breaks the laws of physics or if he's not scientifically accurate in his approach to show the bending of space-time, and that doesn't really matter either if you're reading it. It's not the point of the story. The point is to portray characters doing things that require extreme amounts of power. And when a character does something that nobody else ever does again or ever did before, this means this character is special. And that's why my guy is the fastest character ever in the Naruto universe. Subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the video. Like it as well, please. It really helps against the YouTube algorithm. And watch this other cool Naruto video right here. Thank you so much for watching, guys.